We are back and still believing, just like Nick Chubb. We believe, and believe is necessary with this team. Another tough loss on the road to the Eagles. Amari Cooper gone to the Bills. We've got a game against the Bengals. I think all of the NFL and sports media is laughing at the Browns this past week, which has been tough. Eric, I don't know where we go from here. I think Nick Chubb is the perfect medicine for this Sunday.
Yeah, really, national media really loves sticking it to the Browns, but they don't really have a whole lot of room to point fingers elsewhere. It's their own undoing. But that's another talking point for another day, I guess. Daniel Jones threw for 200 yards last week without Malik Neighbors against the Bengals. That would be an impressive output for this quarterback, especially now with the subtraction of Amari Cooper. We got Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and I guess Jamari Thrash getting some playing time. So I think it's fair to say that despite I believe Jerome Ford will likely not be playing in this game, we will have the services of Nick Chubb. We will be likely relying on the run game a little bit more than we had been in the past. Now, that's to say Nick will have limited carries, but I'm hoping we can build something off that. Maybe a play action. I don't know if that's ever going to work. But yeah, I mean, I really don't I really don't know how this offense improves. I mean, we had discussed turning the play calling over to Ken Dorsey. They don't want to do that, so that's not going to happen. And I mean, one of the ways, I mean, I'm pretty much giving up hope with this offense, and one of the ways that currently constructed, maybe if they make changes, I will revise this statement, but that's where I'm at now. One of the ways they can win these games is by having a defensive or special teams touchdown. Now, the problem with that is they've done that twice and lost both games. So without that, 7 points free, essentially, I mean, it's really hard for them to defeat teams. So a lot's got to happen right. And, maybe the Bengals coming to Huntington Bank Field. Their house supporters will inspire Myles Garrett and the rest of the defense to, make Joe Burrow's day miserable. But yeah, I'm not, JOK and Ronnie McLeod are our two best, most important defenders that have actually done a whole lot this season. And that leaves 9 other guys. Well, Myles Garrett, I guess that goes without saying. But okay, the other 8 guys, have not been up to snuff. So Joe Burrow's coming off not of a great passing game, but he had a 55-yard rushing touchdown. I mean, Jamar Chase has 500 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. He's, back in shape. So they didn't look good against Devontae Smith and AJ Brown last week. They have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase this week. So that's going to be a all hands on deck game against the defense. So don't have a lot of faith. I'll be positive, but it's going to take a lot of things to go right for the Browns to win this game.
Oh yeah. You'll be positive. Okay. Drew. So Amari, it makes sense. I really didn't hear too many pundits talking about how Amari has been leading the league in drops. Maybe just chalking that up to Deshaun, but something hasn't been right this year. It could be that he's not catching passes from Joe Flacco, but something's going on with Amari. There was in training camp, there were some discussion about, putting 100% effort out there on the practice field and a need to have more focus. And then there was the trade rumors that went on, and it seemed like with Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers, once that occurred and Amari didn't go to the 49ers, to the outside, it seemed like there was a difference there. And Amari just wasn't the same player that he was last year, which was disappointing. But that's one person out. The other person that everyone's been focusing on is Myles Garrett. Drew, it's just so hard to believe. I just bought my Myles Garrett jersey this offseason. It's so hard to believe that the Browns would think about parting ways with one of the hearts of this team.
Yeah, for the Amari stuff, I don't know if correlation is causation here or not, but he certainly hasn't been as good this year as he has the last 2 years for this team, and the way everything was looking, almost certainly he was not going to be back. So to move on from him now in a season that's not going anywhere to get a third round pick this year versus hoping for a third round compensatory pick in 2026. I certainly see why they made the move. They are essentially now resigned to the fact that they're not going to be doing a whole heck of a lot this season. That's unfortunate. But that's not news. This is the bed that they've made, and they've got to find a way to lay in it. For lack of a better analogy here. In terms of the Myles stuff, I don't think they want to move any key contributor on the defense. This is me sort of rubbing my crystal ball here, but the way Andrew Berry, assuming he's back, which is a massive assumption at this point, but the way he has liked to approach every offseason is to focus on one area and try to improve that particular area. In the past, he's focused on the defense. He's focused on the secondary. He's tried to focus on the interior of the line, and that's proven to be fairly decent returns on that. On the offensive side, he's tried to focus on the quarterback position one off season to a disaster of a result, but that's sort of how he likes to approach things is to focus on one area and make a targeted investment to get better there. So I personally don't see them moving off of anyone on the defense, certainly not somebody who is already under contract for the 2025 season. I don't see that happening, but with where things are now, if somebody makes a great offer, I don't think there's anyone on this roster that is untouchable. Maybe Nick Chubb because of what he said in the in the Athletic and the Players Tribune, right? Like they probably don't move him. But aside from that, I think all other 52 players, including the great Myles Garrett, are available this year. That doesn't mean I think they'll move them, obviously, but I think any one of those players could be had for the right offer.
I just don't really get. I don't get it with Max Crosby and the Raiders. I guess Devontae Adams going to the Jets. For players, I don't know. Maybe the wide receiver position is a little bit more expendable. Everyone is searching for the defensive line, defensive end. Myles Garrett, one of the best defensive players in the NFL.
Best last year,
yeah,
MVP.
Yeah. So it's just crazy to think that let's part ways with the player that we value the most. Maybe just some, piling on the Browns, as this has been a tough week for us. But we're looking at the Bengals. They have had some tough times as well. Joe Burrow has played pretty well. Eric, you think the Bengals are on the upswing, or do you think the Browns are going to pull one over?
Well, I mean, they've kind of historically started out slow. They've went like 0-2 the last several years, and now they've won, I believe, 2 of their last 3. So one would assume that they are kind of hitting their stride, hitting their improvement area of the season. So something to keep an eye out. Losing Joe Mixon has, due to free agency, has kind of led them to a running back by committee. So, they don't have that tremendous weapon that they've had the last couple of years. However, I mean, the Browns really haven't been bottling anybody up. So, if we can force them to be one-dimensional, that would really help things out. I mean, that should be the game plan. Whether they execute it might be another story. And then, defensively, they made the Giants look pretty porous on offense, and they're not a great offensive team. So I mean, that's kind of what the Browns did, but the Browns offense, just had our defense on the field too long against the Giants a couple weeks ago. So that's almost a push there. So, I mean, right now, just looking at it on paper, they're looking like the better team. So Vegas feels the same way. I mean, upsets happen. They've happened a lot in this season where underdogs have outright won. So maybe the wrong team will be favored on Sunday. Who knows? But it doesn't look good right now for the Orange and Brown.
All right, Drew, I might kick myself for asking this question, but more likely, Browns win against the Bengals this Sunday, or the Guardians pull out this series against the Yankees.
Ooh, that's a tough one, but I'm going to hit you with the spoiler alert for the picks. It's wrong team favored on Sunday. I think the win this thing outright. There is no reason for me to feel that way. But something about Nick Chubb returning, maybe the loss of Amari, maybe that is a one game sort of eye opener where Deshaun just decides to start throwing the ball like he's capable of throwing it. Maybe. I don't know. I wish I could point to something that says this is why I feel confident in this game, but the Bengals aren't very good when they come to Cleveland, and Nick Chubb's coming back. The Browns are going to be they're not going to be flat. So I think the Browns beat this team outright, and that is more likely to me than the Guardians turning around the 0-2 hole that they find themselves in.
It's a trick question. Both are very likely. Browns win. Guardians are going to pull this around.
Sounds great.
Let's go Browns. Let's see
Go
a victory.
Guardians.
Go Guardians.